Good evening. There are plans to make Cheltenham the biggest centre in the country for fighting cybercrime. Household names that have been targeted in recent years, including Yahoo, eBay and the NHS. Well, GCHQ in Cheltenham is already the government's national cybersecurity centre. Now the local council wants to open the UK's first cyber business park in the town. Our business correspondent Dave Harvey reports.
We'll do a full spectrum attack. We'll have a black team who will do a physical penetration.
It doesn't look much, just a bunch of people tapping away. But this is one of the biggest cybersecurity firms in the country, testing the defences of a client.
We'll have a red team who will try and go after the IT networks, and we'll often put people inside the company in order to see what an insider could do, what access could they achieve if they wanted to do something bad against that company.
Most of us have woken up to the risks of having your phone hacked, your laptop. But the future cyber threat is much bigger.
If you look at a car, if that gets hacked while you're driving it, that's serious. That's not just endangering you, but other pedestrians and other road users.
Fully driverless cars may not be here yet, but already today's cars are more sophisticated, more connected, and so more vulnerable.
Lots of cars these days come with SIM cards fitted into them. You've got self-parking modes, things like that. So you've got an interesting combination. Somebody can take over remotely your vehicle and get access to the computers on board and take over the steering. It's a potentially lethal combination.
Just two of the cyber firms I met in Cheltenham. There are so many here, they've now formed a network, raising their profile, campaigning for a new centre.
Well, the tech team here in Cheltenham is really well established now, and the companies range from massive global corporations right the way through to really exciting startup SMEs who are going to be the future of technologies.
The one difficulty with Cheltenham as a place is it does need a science park. Without a science park, there is a shortage of really dedicated or suitable office space that you can take advantage of, and that's the one thing that is lacking in Cheltenham more than anything else.
And this year, Cheltenham's cyber firms may see their dream finally begin to take shape. On a field by a sewage plant.
We're currently looking at a piece of agricultural land, but what we're actually hoping it to be, and the ambition, is to bring forward the UK's first cyber business park.
Right next to GCHQ, the new park will be a magnet for cybersecurity firms. There's talk of 6,000 high-tech, highly paid jobs. But why do they need a big business park?
It's kind of bizarre, and as a non-techie, it's almost sort of ironic, really. I think, well, you tell me you can actually work in a basement in Melbourne or wherever it may be, but actually you always want to be together because they can share ideas, grow ideas, and that's the growth strategy, actually people working together cooperatively.
And the neighbours, far from quietly watching from behind the barbed wire, are actually enthusiastically supporting the new cyber park. So much so that one of GCHQ's bosses has asked me in to explain why.
I think cybersecurity matters to everybody. I mean, everybody walks around with a mobile or a laptop or whatever, and they all need to be kept safe. So we're looking for new products, new ideas that'll keep everybody safe.
And clearly you have to be concerned about cybersecurity for the country as a whole. But for small firms and individuals, is it really that big of a deal, or is the industry just talking it up to create work for themselves?
I think if you're connected to the internet, and how many of us are not connected to the internet today, then you have to think about these things. Anybody who's got those kind of connections has to worry, make sure their machines are patched, make sure they've got some anti-malware on there, and just basically look after their passwords. Those are the sorts of advice we give to everybody, me, you, my kids, whoever.
For years, fighting hackers has been a secret battle. Now, Cheltenham's cyber sleuths are going very public. This, they say, is just not a war they can win alone. Dave Harvey, BBC Points West in Cheltenham.
Well, earlier I spoke to David Owen from the Gloucestershire Local Enterprise Partnership. I asked him what this cyber park will mean for the West Country.
So this is huge. This creates 8,000 jobs. It transforms 44 hectares of employment land. It'll attract £50 million worth of private sector investment into the region in an industry which we know is going to continue to grow and thrive, particularly because of that pull of GCHQ.
Do you think Cheltenham itself has the infrastructure to cope with such a growth, considering that in a town where house prices have risen so sharply recently? Do you think people can actually afford to live there coming in?
Well, I think the reason that we in GFirst LEP are investing £22 million in the project is to absolutely make sure that the right infrastructure is in place to allow access for those 8,000 jobs. And of course, that's 44 hectares of the land. The other 30 hectares of the land is for housing. So there'll be a good provision of housing in the area as well. The local authorities have just signed off their housing plans and they've taken into account the new demand that the cybersecurity park creates as well. So we're very confident in the local enterprise partnership that the infrastructure will be there, that Cheltenham can cope, and more importantly, the wider region can cope with the enormous growth that this industry can create.
How quickly do you think local businesses will see a benefit from this?
Well, there's work to do in terms of getting the exact details of what the cyber park will look like and how the infrastructure will work, and that will happen over the course of the next 12 months or so. We'll then start to see shovels in the ground very shortly, and we'll start to see the development of those 8,000 jobs on the site. Of course, the knock-on impact of that is that you've got 8,000 people in knowledge-intensive, generally well-paid jobs who are looking to buy local services from other businesses in the area. So not just for cybersecurity is this great, but it's great for the wider Gloucestershire economy and the wider West Country economy as well.
David Owen, thank you very much.